One of these three companies is using the word hybrid for something completely different from what the other two are doing. Not marketing spin, a different category of vehicle entirely. Toyota, Honda, Mercedes, all hybrids. All bring a motor and a battery to the spec sheet, all save you fuel. But only two of them built a car that can actually drive on electricity alone, with the engine fully off. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one is faking it, and why driving past a gas station means something completely different depending on which badge is on the trunk. Let's start with the one that started all of this, Toyota. Every hybrid system has to solve the same basic problem: blend power from a gasoline engine and an electric motor without a normal gearbox getting in the way. Toyota's answer, introduced in the original 1997 Prius, and still the foundation of hybrid synergy drive today, doesn't use clutches at all. It solves the problem with pure mechanical geometry, a single planetary gear set. Picture three components nested inside each other: a sun gear in the center, a ring gear on the outside, and a set of planet gears in between, connecting the two. In Toyota's system, the engine drives the planet carrier. One electric motor generator, called MG1, is bolted to the sun gear. A second motor, MG2, drives the ring gear, which is directly connected to the wheels. Here's the part that makes this genuinely clever. Because all three of these elements are mechanically linked through the gear set at the same time, Toyota doesn't need a single clutch to switch between gas and electric power. The system simply adjusts how fast MG1 spins to control how the engine's power gets split between charging the battery and turning the wheels. Spin MG1 one way, more power goes to propulsion. Spin it another way, more goes to generating electricity. The car functions like a continuously variable transmission. Toyota calls it an e-CVT. Except instead of a belt and pulleys, the variable element is the speed of an electric motor. That's why Toyota's patents on this exact mechanism number in the tens of thousands. And why in 2019, Toyota made the unusual decision to release thousands of those hybrid patents royalty-free to the rest of the industry, an attempt to push the whole market toward electrification faster. A handful of competitors actually built on that license rather than reinventing the wheel themselves, which is part of why so many hybrids on the road today share Toyota's basic DNA, even under a different badge. Some of Toyota's competitors took them up on it, one very notably did not, and built something almost completely different instead. Quick one before we move on. Drop a comment with which one of these three you currently drive, or which one you'd actually choose. I want to see how this splits. Honda's answer to the same problem looks similar on paper. Two motors, one engine, one battery. But the way they're connected couldn't be more different. Where Toyota blends power continuously through gears, Honda's two-motor hybrid system, badged eHEV, switches between distinct modes using an actual physical clutch. There's a generator motor, a separate propulsion motor that drives the wheels directly, and the gasoline engine. For the vast majority of everyday driving, city streets, stop-and-go traffic, anything under highway speed, that clutch stays open. The engine, if it's running at all, exists purely to spin the generator motor and make electricity. The actual propulsion comes entirely from the electric motor. Functionally, in this mode, you are driving an EV with a gas-powered generator sitting under the hood. This is also where Honda's hybrid story gets interesting if you've followed the brand for a while. Their earlier system, called IMA, was a much simpler single-motor design that could only assist the engine. It couldn't drive the car by itself at all. The current eHEV setup is a complete architectural break from that older system, not just an upgrade to it. It's worth sitting with that for a second, because it's exactly the same gap we're about to find between Honda and Mercedes. Then, at sustained highway speed, where a gasoline engine is actually at its most efficient, the system does something Toyota's never does. A lock-up clutch physically connects the engine directly to the propulsion motor's shaft, and engine torque flows straight to the wheels with no electrical conversion losses in between. Honda calls this engine drive mode, and it's unique to their system specifically because of that clutch. The newest, fourth-generation version of this, currently in the CR-V, Accord, and the 2025 Civic, pushed this further. Honda added a second, low-speed lock-up clutch in certain models, letting the engine drive the wheels directly even at urban speeds if the battery's depleted, and significantly increased the propulsion motor's torque output in the side-by-side configuration used in the CR-V and Accord. So Toyota blends continuously through gears. Honda switches discreetly through a clutch, behaving like an EV most of the time and a normal car at speed. Two genuinely different engineering philosophies, and both of them, crucially, can drive on electric power alone for real distances, with the engine completely off. Mercedes can't do that, and that's where this story takes its turn. Mercedes calls their system EQ Boost, and the hardware at its center is something called an integrated starter generator, a compact electric motor sandwiched directly between the engine and the transmission, replacing the traditional starter motor and alternator entirely. Introduced in Mercedes production vehicles in the late 2010s, it runs on its own 48-volt electrical system, completely separate from the car's normal 12-volt circuit, fed by a small lithium-ion battery. Here's what that ISG actually does. When you lift off the throttle or brake, it acts as a generator, converting the car's momentum back into electricity and storing it in that 48-volt battery, the same basic regenerative principle Toyota and Honda use. When you accelerate, it can briefly act as a motor, adding a documented horsepower boost directly to the crankshaft, filling in torque while a turbocharger is still spooling up. And it restarts the engine after a stop-start event almost instantly and silently, far smoother than a conventional starter motor. But that's the entire job description. At no point can that ISG move the car by itself. Not for 1 meter, not for 10 seconds, not at a single mile per hour. The combustion engine is never optional in this system. It's always the one actually driving the wheels. The electric motor exists purely to assist it. And Mercedes isn't alone in building it this way. That's actually the important part. The same 48-volt assist concept shows up across a huge slice of the industry right now, under different names, in Audis, BMWs, Volkswagens, and even some American trucks. It's become the default answer for manufacturers who want a hybrid line on the spec sheet without redesigning the entire drivetrain around an electric motor. This is what's technically called a mild hybrid, and it's a genuinely different category from what Toyota and Honda are building. Toyota's gearset and Honda's lockup clutch both exist to let the engine step aside entirely and hand propulsion over to an electric motor. Mercedes ISG and every system like it exists to make the engine itself slightly better at its job. Quicker starts, smoother torque, better real-world efficiency, without ever replacing it. None of these three companies are lying when they use the word hybrid. But only two of them built a system where the car can genuinely run as an electric vehicle. The third built something closer to a very sophisticated assist system bolted onto a normal engine, which is exactly why it's the cheapest of the three to manufacture, and exactly why it'll never show you an all-electric range number on the spec sheet. So what does this actually mean if you're cross-shopping? It comes down to three things that show up on your actual ownership experience, not just the spec sheet. Fuel savings. A full hybrid like a Toyota or Honda can realistically beat a comparable gas car by 30 to 40% in city driving, because so much of that driving happens on electric power alone. A mild hybrid savings are real, but far smaller, usually in the single digits to low teens, because the engine is doing the work the entire time, just slightly more efficiently. Maintenance. Full hybrids carry a larger, more expensive battery pack and a more complex transmission, which is part of why they cost more upfront. Mild hybrids are mechanically closer to a normal car, which is part of why they're cheaper. And driving feel. Full hybrids will glide away from a stoplight in near silence. Mild hybrids never will, because the engine never actually stops doing the driving. So if you're cross-shopping hybrids and the listings all just say hybrid with no further detail, you now know the one question that actually separates them. Can this thing move under electric power alone with the engine fully off? If the answer's yes, you're looking at a Toyota-style or Honda-style system. If the answer's no, you're looking at a 48-volt assist system wearing the same label. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, this channel exists specifically to take the marketing language apart and show you the actual hardware underneath it. Hit subscribe so the next one lands in your feed. Drop a like if this changed how you'll read a hybrid spec sheet from now on, and tell me in the comments. Knowing what you know now, would you still call a mild hybrid a real hybrid? Or does Mercedes need a different word for this?